buddy Jim Bottrell is here. You can always find him. Jim has thebuyers.com. And Jim, I wanted to talk to you today because I have so many friends that are a little afraid at the moment because they think they are losing value in the properties that they own. They think that interest rates are too high to buy a new property. And boy, Jim, there is just a whole lot of skeptical minds in my social circles these days. So I thought it would be fun to have a conversation and chat with you about just what is going on. So what does the market look like to you right now? Can you give us kind of a little landscape, a little shot of what that might look like?
Sure. Actually, there's several things going on. Some of it's expected, some of it's not. We did expect that there would be very few sellers. All right. So we knew this. There's I've advertised in you guys' show, fleecalifornianow.com. 81% of my sellers over the last 2 years have been people that have been actually leaving California, and I get it. I get it. But the thing is, most of those people that were going to leave have already left. And so what that leaves us with is people that are going to move because they have to. There's not really, most people are sitting on interest rates that's got a 2 or a 3. And, maybe they have that 3-bedroom house, 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom house, and maybe their family expands. And they say, hey, it'd be great to get a 4 and 3. But that new property has interest rates at 6.5%, and their old one has one at 2.5%. So their payment would effectively double, to get that extra bedroom for that new kid. So The question is what do? Do they double their mortgage payment to get that extra bedroom, or do they put bunk beds in the kid's room? Well, the answer is bunk beds. Right? So you have people that were already going to leave California, have already left, en masse. And then you have people that are no longer moving because they feel like it. And that's the way people in California have moved forever, because they feel like it. When I bought my second house, literally my wife and I were coming home from Costco, and we saw the guy holding the new home construction sign. And he said, hey, let's pop in and look at the houses. And next thing 4 hours later, we're in escrow buying a house.
Those guys are compelling with their arrows spinning on the corner, aren't they?
Yeah, I know. We're literally coming home from Costco. And so that's, evidence that people in California just move because they want to. Well, now they're not doing that anymore. So the people who are already leaving have already left. The people aren't moving because they feel like it anymore. So the only houses that are for sale are the ones where people have to sell. And there just aren't very many of them. So we knew there was going to be an extreme shortage of houses. We also knew that, as we saw starting in July of last year when interest rates, started going up in earnest, that stifled all the buyers. Well, what happened is in January, the interest rates stabilized for quite some time, and they actually went down. And this is the part that's been a surprise. So for the first, so far this year, starting in about January 13th, buyers came out in droves. Tons of buyers. That's, 6 months of pent-up buyer, frustration, if it will, moving suddenly comes back to market, and there's no houses for sale. So what we've been seeing is housing prices going up. We have been seeing multiple offers. We've been seeing on my listings, we're getting 10, 12 offers on my listings. And wow, okay, so we're selling these things anywhere from $20,000 to $120,000 over market. That's what's happening right now. However, I don't expect that to last, because I don't know if you looked at the latest jobs report, things like that. Unemployment is, they're saying it's down to 3.4%, which I'm sure Biden administration is going to take all the credit for that. But really, it's the baby boomers retiring. But he'll take credit for that, too. And then we have wages are up. So now we have more people with more money. But you notice that manufacturing was off horribly.
Yeah.
So we're not making very many goods.
Right.
And then now, given what's happening in the global world where China is starting to side with Russia, we're going to suddenly start putting sanctions on China. So no more free, cheap stuff that we're going to get from China. So suddenly there's going to be too many people with too much money chasing too few goods. Well, we saw what happened when that happened last year. And we saw inflation, and then the Fed's going to start raising rates again. In fact, last Wednesday, the Fed said that they are not done raising interest rates, and we saw interest rates jump up again, go from about 6.2 to 6.7 is what I've been seeing. So that's going to stifle the buyers. So right now, if you're a seller, I would say get your house on the market. Let's see, whatever, within an hour. You can do it now, quickly.
Right?
There's an opportunity right there. And then for the buyers, the second half of your question is you have your buyers saying we don't like the high interest rates. Last April, May, I had buyers complaining that they're getting an interest rate to start with a 4.
Isn't that funny?
So
I know.
Right now, people, yeah. Oh, absolutely. They were like, we refuse to buy. These rates are way too high. Well, okay. So now we're at interest rates in the mid to high 6s is what I'm seeing. I still firmly believe, maybe not in 2023, but I still firmly believe we're going to see interest rates start with a 9.
Wow.
And so interest rates are going to continue to go up.
So if you have a desire to buy, Don't wait for these interest rates to drop. Maybe you're going to be the guys who have the 4% rates now going, wow, thank God I locked in when I did.
Yeah, geniuses.
Right.
At 4, geniuses. So if you do it today at 6, well, when it's 7 or 8 or 9, you're going to be the genius.
Well, and the great thing about interest rates, too, Jim, and not to interrupt here, but with my limited knowledge, if you are really compelled to buy right now, you lock in around 6.5%. If the market does go down, you can always try to refinance or try to renegotiate your interest rate or your loan, right?
You can. And that's what everybody did. That's why they all have interest rates that starts with a 2 or a 3.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, obviously I'm in real estate, so I own a lot of properties. I mean, that's my world. I'm good at it. Every loan that I have starts with 2. Mm-hmm. But those days are gone, and they're not coming back. I don't think, we might, if something really bad, we have a bad recession, something like that, we might see things that start with a 5. But I really don't think that we're going to see anything with a 4, and we're never going to see 3s and 2s again.
So let me ask you this, given that information, and we're talking to our friend Jim Bottrell. I want you to get in touch with him. Jim has thebuyers.com. That's his website. So if you want to sell or if you're looking to buy, this is a guy, I mean, you listen to him. He's so smart. He's helping you through the process. Jim has thebuyers.com. But Jim, for some of us in the situation, and I'll use myself personally, but I don't think I'm alone here. I am someone who, when Biden went into office, I better refinance my loan. I better get this done now. I didn't take any money out of my house. I renegotiated. I redid my loan for a shorter term, and my interest rate is also in the high 2s. And I feel like a genius at this moment as well. So it's also a small house. It's a 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom. I would like to expand. This was a property that was a family property that I was able to kind of redesign in the way I wanted to. So now my question is, do I sell that house and go into an interest rate that's a 6 if I'm lucky and a bigger home that I want? Or do I keep that house, try to make that a rental property and just go into something totally separate so that I start accumulating some property and wealth? So
multi-pronged question.
Yeah.
Do you keep that property? The question more importantly is, do you keep that interest rate?
That's right.
That's because properties can be replaced. Mm-hmm. Interest rates that start with a 2 cannot.
So better to keep that if you have it.
Yeah, I would. I would. I'm in real estate, and I'm the weird guy that'll tell people that, don't sell unless you have to. Now, let's say that you want to buy a house. You find the big, bad house that you think, you deserve. And I always tell everybody, live in the biggest, baddest house you possibly can, right? Always. Make it your favorite place to be. Don't worry about the payment. The payment stays the same forever. It might be high right now, but you're going to get used to it real fast, as everybody does. And if you need to sell that house in order to get the big house that's your favorite place to be, then yes, sell that house. When I sold my very first house, my rent was $825 a month, with my wife and I. And yeah, the late 90s, caveat there.
You can't even get a box for that anymore.
No, you can't. When we had that $825 rent, we bought our first house in 2000. The interest rate was 9. All right, so we went from $825 to a payment of over $2,600.
Wow.
So tripling, more than triple of, want to talk about payment shock?
Yeah, that's scary.
But it was just an okay house. Honestly, it was the max we could qualify for. I even had to borrow money from my dad for down payment because I was a young lieutenant in the Marine Corps. I was in my 20s, and that's what kids in the 20s do. And we owned that house for 2 years, and the property values went up, and we sold that house. At the end of 2 years, I got a check for $80,000. Now, if you take that $2,600 per month and you do that for 2 years, that's about $62,000. Well, I got a check for $80,000, which means I got all of my $2,600 payments back plus an additional $18,000 tax free.
That's incredible.
Right? So I got all my. That's why I hate renting so much. Is because when you rent, you pay to live in someone else's house, but when you own, you get paid to live in your own.
Right.
So when I learned that's actually, as a lieutenant, that's when I fell in love with real estate. Because what I did with that $80,000, I bought 3 houses with it. I bought a new primary residence, and then I bought 2 rental properties. Now, those rental properties, I still own them. They're fantastic. I get all of the benefits from them. I get the appreciation, the principal reduction on the payments each month. I get the tax deductions, and the renter gets to pay for all of it.
Yeah.
Right, and that's fantastic. And the rents that I charge every single year go up, but the payment stays the same. And this is the generational wealth that I will pay for my retirement, and then someday it will be my daughters. I have 3 daughters. I have 3 daughters, and they will inherit that, and they'll give them opportunities in their life that I didn't have. Now, going back to your question, do you sell that house? if you're going to sell it, understand you're going to give up that interest rate that cannot be replaced. But if you sell it to buy that big, awesome house for yourself and maybe another property, then yeah, sell it all day long.
Right.
Now, a lot of people sell houses thinking, well, I have to sell this house in order to buy my new one. I would ask your lender this. Do I really have to sell this? And then you also have to stomach the question is, do I want to be a landlord? You know, because if you have a nice system for owning rental properties, you know, for mine are, you know, I was a Marine, mine are all tucked up next to Camp Pendleton. I like the fact that the tenants turn out about every 27 months. And because I get to reset the rents, and it's been less than 3 years. So if there's any, you know, paint and carpet and stuff like that, you can go ahead and charge them. Over 3 years in California, you can't. They have to pay. They get basic allowance for housing, so they get the extra money from the Marine Corps for the express purpose of paying the rent. If they don't, they can get in trouble. You know, and I know that, and they know that I know that they know
really
that.
Smart, yeah.
So, yeah. And, you know, so the thing is you got to look at where do these people want to live? You know, I look at what demographic do I want to rent to? And, you know, for me, demographic is military. I want active duty military. So my property's up next to base. And I rent, you know, pretty much exclusively to active duty military. One of the ways that I do that is I offer my properties for about $100 below fair market rent. And in markets like this, I'll get 12, 15 applications. And what I'm looking for is the active duty military family, maybe one kid, no pets. And out of those 12 or 15 applications, there's going to be one of those. And so that's why I do that. So going back to your original question, do you sell that property? I would say sell that property if you have to. And you got a nice interest rate starts with a 2. If it's something that you think you can rent, and then maybe you want to keep that as a rental, and then you just buy the next house. If you have to sell it, then sell it. Get yourself a nice, like, wonderful big house for yourself that you absolutely enjoy, love it, and don't worry about the payment. Because the payment, you know, like I said, when I had that rent at $825 and I moved to $2,600, that payment stung for the first month. That was it. The first month, it was a tough one. After that, never noticed it again. And I thought, wow, this is easy.
I love it. And this is a great advice that you're going to get from Jim Bottrell. So how do people get in touch with you? Who are you looking for right now? How do people reach out and get your great guidance through this process? Because as you mentioned, it can be really exciting, really fun, really good for the long term, but people can have a lot of anxiety as well.
Yeah, and we have a lot of things that, you know, for me, I'm very big on explaining the process.
Yeah.
I want to make sure that the people that are buying the houses and selling the houses truly understand everything about it, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And I'll make sure that they understand the process. So if you're actually, you know, thinking about it, just go to Jim Has the Buyers is the easy way to get in touch with us. And we will go through your exact situation. You know, we can look at what your finances are, what it is you can buy, what you can afford. We'll help you out and truly make you understand, because, you know, what's interesting is a very harsh saying that I have, but it's turned out to be absolutely true. Home ownership is why wealthy people are wealthy.
I agree with that.
Renters will never be.
It's very hard to gain wealth as a renter. Yeah. That's right. You don't have that real property that you can use that will benefit you throughout your life, for sure, and benefit your family.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And the reason being is that renters, you remember that example where I sold that house after 2 years and I got all my money back and I got a check for $18,000. Can a renter say that?
Nope.
When they move out, hey, landlord, we've been great. We paid our rent on time. We took good care of the house. Can I have all my rent back? No. Can I have a bonus of, $18,000 when I move out on top of my rent back? No. Can I have tax deductions for owning this the whole time, or for renting this the whole time? No. Homeowners get to write off all the interest and property taxes they pay. Those are deductions. Some limitations, of course, talk to your accountant. But the second half of that harsh statement is renters have to pay to live in someone else's home, while homeowners get paid to live in their own home.
Yeah.
And that's why, think of how much wealth you could accumulate passively if it didn't cost you anything to live for housing anymore. And that's what, over the long term, home ownership does. And that's why I love it so much. I mean, I loved being a Marine, but when it was time for me to move on, the path was obvious because, as a lieutenant and a captain and eventually a major, I owned homes and I owned rental properties. And I saw that I was making more money passively, not doing anything, just walking to the mailbox and picking up checks. I was making more money doing that than I was as a captain in the Marine Corps, where I was going to work every day and at times getting shot at. which is overrated, by the way.
And
I would just recommend against it.
And everybody needs to be able to feel like they can jump in, that they have a shot. If you have a property to buy, if you have a property to sell, talk to our friend Jim Bottrell. He's fantastic. You can hear it in his voice. Former Marine, we thank you for your service. Jim has thebuyers.com. That's where you can find him. Jim has thebuyers.com. Jim Bottrell, thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you for having me.